On December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers flew the first airplane, and the world changed forever. But here is something fascinating. Just 2 months before that flight, the New York Times predicted that humans would not be able to fly for another 10 million years. Only 69 days later, the Wright brothers proved them wrong. That flight didn't just invent the airplane. It started an engineering revolution that would soon change warfare forever. Because just a few years later, someone had a crazy idea. What if we put airplanes on ships? And that idea created one of the most powerful weapons in human history, the aircraft carrier. In the early 1900s, the most powerful country in the world was not the United States, it was Great Britain. But Britain's power didn't come from its army, it came from its navy. The British Royal Navy controlled the seas, and whoever controlled the seas controlled global trade, colonies, and war. There was just one problem. Airplanes had been invented, but airports barely existed. Britain is an island, and land for building airfields was limited. So British naval engineers started thinking that if planes needed runways, why not build a runway on a ship? At the time, this sounded insane, but that insane idea would change naval warfare forever. The British took a large passenger ship and converted it into something the world had never seen before. They built a full-length flat deck on the top of the ship so airplanes could take off and land. This ship became the world's first true aircraft carrier, HMS Argus. It was massive for its time, with a flight deck length of 172 meters, a height of 20 meters, a weight of 14,000 tons, and engines producing 20,000 horsepower. It may not sound impressive today, but back then it was revolutionary, because for the first time in history, a country could launch airplanes from the middle of the ocean. This changed naval warfare completely. Before this, ships fought ships. But now ships could send airplanes to destroy enemy fleets from the sky, and most ships at that time had no defense against aircraft. When the United States saw what Britain had built, they immediately started building their own aircraft carrier, USS Langley, and then Japan built theirs, Hosho. But here's the interesting part. The Japanese carrier was actually better designed than the British and American ones. The reason was simple. The British and Americans converted existing ships into carriers, but the Japanese designed their carrier from the ground up as a warship. It was stronger, more stable, and even had defensive weapons. Soon, aircraft carriers became the most important ships in the Navy. World War I was unlike any war before it. For the first time in history, the battlefield included tanks, submarines, machine guns, chemical weapons, radio communication, airplanes, anti-aircraft guns, and aircraft carriers. This was the first industrial war in history. Millions of young men volunteered for war, thinking it would be like the old wars with rifles, horses, and cannons. But they had no idea they were walking into a war of machines, gas, and total destruction. World War I became one of the greatest tragedies in human history. But even then, aircraft carriers were still new and not fully used yet. Their true power would be revealed in the next war. In World War II, aircraft carriers became the most important naval weapon in the world. The biggest naval battles in history were fought between the United States and Japan, and they were fought using aircraft carriers. For example, the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 happened because Japan launched airplanes from aircraft carriers to attack the United States, and without aircraft carriers, that attack would have been impossible. World War II proved something very important. The most powerful navy was no longer the one with the biggest guns, it was the one with the most aircraft carriers. The airplane changed transportation, but the aircraft carrier changed war. Today, aircraft carriers are still the ultimate symbol of military power, because an aircraft carrier is not just a ship, it is a moving airport, a military base, a floating city, and a weapon that can reach anywhere in the world. More than 100 years after the first aircraft carrier was built, these ships are still the kings of the ocean, and it all started with one simple idea. What if we put a runway on a ship?